I remember the exact moment Diana Hayes crashed into my world like a rogue soccer ball in the penalty box. Unannounced, full of spin, and impossible to ignore. It was the spring of that year, the high school auction buzzing under the gym's fluorescent hum, where parents hawked pies and paddle-wielded bids for new bleachers. The air smelled like burnt coffee and desperation, moms in yoga pants clutching clipboards, dads loosening ties after a long week. I was there in my khakis and team polo, nursing a lukewarm cup from the PTA urn, scanning the crowd for Mrs. Hargrove, the Booster Club firebrand who'd sworn she'd cough up cash for new goal nets. My JV squad was scraping by with rusted frames that wobbled like they were auditioning for a demolition derby, and I needed that win more than most. That's when she appeared, weaving through the throng like she owned the chaos. Paint-splattered overalls hugging her frame just right, a streak of cerulean blue slashed across one cheek like she'd just arm-wrestled a canvas and lost. Diana Hayes, art teacher from the elementary wing down the hall, her dark hair tied back in a messy knot that screamed, "I create messes for a living, and I love it." She had this energy, electric and unfiltered, the kind that makes a room tilt. I caught her eye across a table of quilt raffles, and she grinned, wide, unapologetic, like we'd been in on the same joke for years. She was bidding on a donated weekend getaway, some rustic cabin up in the Wisconsin woods, complete with a hot tub and wildlife viewing. Sounded perfect for a team retreat, so I jumped in on a lark, paddle raised high. $200, my voice cut through the chatter, drawing a few chuckles from the bleacher crowd. Diana whipped around, eyes narrowing in mock challenge. $250, and I'll paint the whole team as woodland warriors. The room erupted in laughter, bids ping-ponging like a rally in doubles tennis. I countered with $300, heart picking up pace. Not just for the cabin, but for the spark in her. The way she leaned into the fight not to crush, but to collaborate, to turn a simple auction into something alive. By $450, we were tied, paddles down, the auctioneer wiping sweat from his brow. "Split the prize? Or sudden death?" he boomed, and Diana turned to me, hand extended. "Truce, Coach Brooks. We co-own the getaway. I'll bring the brushes, you bring the strategy." Her palm was warm, calloused from handling palettes and pencils, and that handshake lingered a beat too long, her thumb brushing my knuckle accidental-like. "Ethan," I said, rubbing the back of my neck, feeling heat creep up. "And deal, but only if you promise not to turn me into a tree in those portraits." She laughed, low and throaty, the sound cutting through the post-bid applause. "No promises. Rugged types like you make killer oaks. Deep roots. Stormproof." We talked through the cleanup frenzy, her doodling soccer plays on a crumpled napkin while I sketched out basic drills on the back of a program. Her lines were fluid, adding splashes of color to my grid of X's and O's, turning a simple 4-4-2 into something that looked like it could hang in a gallery. "See, tactics with soul," she said, capping her marker with a flourish. Turns out the auction doubled as a fundraiser for this kid's hospital outreach program. Face painting booths, art therapy drives, the works. Diana was knee-deep in it, volunteering her weekends to turn sterile rooms into explosion of jungles and spaceports. That's how she knew Tom Riley, the coordinator, a lanky guy in his mid-30s, faded nonprofit tee stretched over a runner's build, all easy smiles and perpetual clipboard in hand. I'd nodded at him earlier from across the pie table, but it was Diana who reeled me in proper. "Tom's the glue that keeps the glitter from turning into a disaster zone," she said, waving him over mid-doodle. "Tom, meet Ethan, The coach who's about to regret tying himself to my chaos. Tom ambled up, clapping me on the shoulder with a grip that was firm but quick, like he was used to wrangling volunteers without bruising egos. Brooks, right? Heard from the halls you're the wizard who turned last year's JV scrubs into actual contenders. Diana here's been raving about your playbook. Says it's like poetry in cleats, all rhythm and no fluff. I snorted, slinging my gym bag higher. Poetry? First time anyone's called my scribbles that. Usually it's brooding chicken scratches. Diana elbowed me light, her shoulder brushing mine. What can I say? You make strategy look like art. Tom's the one who sees the big picture. Without him, I'd be finger painting on napkins forever. We chatted logistics for the outreach, me half listening, half mesmerized by how she lit up talking causes, her hands gesturing wild like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. Tom nodded along, jotting notes. Next event's a mural blitz at the hospital. Diana's lead on designs. Could use a hype man like you, Ethan. Kids eat up stories about underdog teams. Sounds solid, I said, surprising myself. Count me in for a Saturday. As Tom wandered off to schmooze donors, Diana turned back, her paint-streaked cheek catching the light. See? Collisions make the best plays. By summer's sticky embrace, we were inseparable, the kind of fast burn that feels inevitable in hindsight. Dates blurred into impromptu practices. I'd spot her on the sidelines with a sketch pad, capturing the kid's triumphant slides into the net, charcoal smudges on her jeans. That one's got your fire, she'd say, nodding at a wiry freshman who'd just bent a shot like Beckham. I'd drag her to the field house after, sweat-soaked and grinning, hanging her quick murals on the cinder block walls, swirling goalposts in electric blues that made the space feel less like a sweatbox and more like a war room for dreamers. Our first real date was a trail run at the forest preserves, Scout. Our soon-to-be mutt, a scruffy lab mix with one floppy ear and a penchant for stealing socks, tagging along from the shelter that afternoon. We adopted him on impulse, his tail thumping like a bass drum as Diana knelt to ruffle his ears. Look at that grin, pure underdog energy. The run turned into a walk when Scout bolted after a squirrel, yanking us off-path into a thicket. Told you he'd referee, I laughed, untangling her shoelace from a root. She swatted my arm, breathless. Referee? More like sabotage. But hey, best detour ever. We collapsed on a log, sharing a water bottle, her shoulder against mine as the sun slanted gold through the leaves. You know, Ethan, most guys see my paint stains and bail. You lean in. Lean in's my specialty, I said, tilting her chin with a finger. Cleats, canvases, same game. Build something that lasts. Our first kiss tasted like Gatorade and possibility, Scout circling back with a muddy stick like applause. The wedding hit that October, leaves crunching underfoot at the old orchard venue off Route 59. A rustic barn strung with Edison bulbs, hay bales for pews, the air crisp with apple cider and wood smoke. 50 guests, mostly team parents and her art crew, crammed into flannel and boots. Vows exchanged with the wind tugging at our collars. Her in a lace gown that swirled like one of her abstracts. Me in a suit that felt like armor. I promised to pass the ball, I murmured during the toasts, squeezing her hand under the table. And to always see the bigger canvas, even when the field's mud. She laughed, tears smudging her mascara just a touch, leaning in close. And I'll add the color, Ethan. Every damn time. No grays allowed. The reception devolved into a harvest whirl. Kids from the team leading a conga line through the cider press, Tom Riley raising a glass from the non-profit table. to collisions that change the game. His toast drawing cheers. Diana caught my eye across the dance floor, her skirt twirling as she pulled me in for the slow ones, whispering against my neck, "This is our masterpiece." Honeymoon was a rented cabin in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, snow dusting the pines by week 2 like powdered sugar on a fresh-baked risk. We built a lopsided snowman out back one morning, carrot nose crooked, scarf pilfered from my duffel, then pelted each other with powdery handfuls until we tumbled inside, breathless and rosy-cheeked, shedding layers by the fire. "Truce?" she gasped, pinned under me on the rug, her laughter bubbling up. "Never," I growled, kissing the snowflakes from her lashes. "You're stuck with me now, artist." Nights blurred into mornings of tangled sheets and lazy sketches, her tracing my scars from old tackles on the walls with charcoal, me mapping lazy kisses down her spine. Scout waited at home with a neighbor, but we brought back a pine cone for him, like a trophy. Life rooted quick after that. Mornings with her humming over coffee in the kitchen, steam curling from mugs as I mapped scrimmages on the table, her adding doodles to the margins. "More flair on that flank attack," she'd tease, stealing a sip. Evenings collapsing on the couch with takeout tie and game tape. Scout sprawled across our laps like a furry referee, snoring through halftime analysis. Weekends were trailblazing escapes, hikes along the Des Plaines River, her backpack heavy with snacks and sketch pads, me carrying the cooler. "Race you to the bluff," she'd challenge, bolting ahead, her ponytail bouncing. She'd drag me to her volunteer gigs sporadically, those hospital outreach events where the air hummed with crayons and quiet courage. I'd cheer from the sidelines as she transformed kids' faces into superheroes. Tiger stripes for the brave ones, galaxy swirls for the dreamers. Tom orchestrating the booth like a ringmaster with a soft spot. "Ethan, get in here. Hold this tray steady," he'd call once, tossing me an apron stained with glitter glue. I waved it off, leaning on the doorframe. "Nah, I'm the designated hype man. Last time you let me near the paints, one kid ended up looking like a derailed Picasso, blue mustache and all." Diana glanced up from a half-finished lion mane, her eyes sparkling under the tent lights. "Lies. That was your idea. Add whiskers for extra roar." Tom chuckled, clipping donor forms. "You two are a team already. Hospital's lucky to have the Brooks energy." Those early months, her impact highs, lit her up like stadium floods. Post-event debriefs over pizza, her recounting a kid's grin when the mural came alive. "It's not just paint, Ethan. It's armor for the tough days." I loved it, that fire in her bridging worlds, pulling me into causes I hadn't chased since college. But autumn crept in with its sly chill, leaves turning gold then gone, and the rhythm started to snag, subtle as a player favoring one ankle after a tweak you can't quite pinpoint. Mid-November, the first frost glazing the practice fields, she missed our holiday scrimmage watch. It was our ritual, etched in since the engagement. Thermoses of spiked cider on the metal bleachers, Scout curled at our feet with a chew toy, hollering at the JV kids until our throats rasped and the cold sank bone deep. I'd texted her that morning from the lot, truck idling. "Bleachers calling, cider's hot, don't leave me hanging." Her reply buzzed back quick. "Strategy huddle ran late. Volunteer board's on fire tonight. Rain check? Love you to the net and back." I shrugged it off, chalking it to the new board role she'd snagged post-wedding, coordinating murals for the hospital's long-term wing, her ideas pitching donors like free kicks. Bundled up alone, the wind off the field whipping sharper without her laugh echoing mine, I yelled plays anyway. Midfield, wake up! That's not possession, that's charity. The kids hustled harder, sensing the edge in my voice, and Scout whined at my boots, pawing for attention. Post-game, driving home with the wipers slapping slush, I felt the quiet settle heavier than usual. That night, over bowls of her chili by the fireplace, heavy on the cumin and ghost peppers, the kind that leaves your lips tingling. I set my spoon down deliberate, flames crackling shadows on the mantel. Hey, we've been starters since the whistle, full 90, no subs. Lately feels like you're pulling double duty on the bench. What's the formation here, Di? She paused, steam curling between us like a veil, her fork midway to her mouth, eyes flicking to the fire. The room smelled of spice and oak, Scout snoring soft by the hearth. Ethan, it's the board. Tom's pushing this outreach expansion. Murals in every room, donor trips to the sites. It's got that stakes feel, you know? Like we're actually shifting something. She set her bowl aside, reaching across to trace my knuckles, her touch light but insistent. But we're solid. The team's us. Here, open this before I chicken out. She slid a small velvet box over the rug, the size of a matchbook. I flipped it open, the locket glinting, silver, etched with our wedding photo tiny and intricate, like a team badge pressed into metal. Wear it under the jersey, she said, voice softening as she leaned in to clasp it around my neck, her fingers cool on my skin. Keeps the huddle close, even when the field's pulling me. The chain settled heavy, the metal warming quick against my chest, and I pulled her into my lap, her weight familiar as halftime. All right, but next scrimmage? Non-negotiable. We're passing the ball, back and forth. We sealed it with a kiss that tasted like peppers and promise, her fingers tangling in my hair, the fire popping approval. But as we broke apart, her phone buzzed sharp on the coffee table. An alert from the non-profit app chimed like a warning whistle. She glanced at it, just a flicker, thumb hovering before she silenced it. Work never sleeps, she murmured, nestling closer. I nodded into her hair, the locket pressing like a talisman. Yeah, neither do we. But sleep came fitful that night, the house creaking in the wind, and I lay staring at the ceiling, tracing the chain's outline under my shirt. Winter dragged its boots through December, snow piling against the windows like uninvited guests, the fields a whiteout blur from the kitchen view. Ryan Patel, my coaching buddy since our Division III days, stocky guy with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, nose like a bloodhound for fouls, cornered me at the gym one January morning, steam rising from our post-drill coffees in paper cups, the air thick with chlorine and effort. We'd just run suicides with the varsity, lungs burning, and he slumped on the bench beside me, towel slung over his neck. Saw Diana's volunteer post last night, he said, blowing on his cup, eyes scanning my face like he was scouting for tells. Her and Tom high-fiving over some mural haul. Caption had heart emojis and everything. Bro, don't let the clipboard guy swipe your star forward. I've seen that play before. Starts with team building, ends with awkward parent emails. I snorted, slinging my bag over one shoulder, the locket shifting under my damp tee. Ryan, ease up. Tom's the ultimate neutral, harmless as a sub who fetches water. Diana's all in on the cause. It's her oxygen. Those posts? Just hype for the donors. Trust wasn't some tactic board to me. It was the baseline, the air in the lungs before the sprint, the huddle where you didn't second-guess the incoming pass. Besides, we're good. Chili last night fixed any wobbles. He raised his brows, sipping slow. Chili as foreplay? You're a romantic, Brooks. Just keep an eye on the flanks. Jim Dad's talk, and that one's got rhythm. He clapped my back, heading for the lockers, leaving me with the echo and a faint itch between my shoulder blades. Spring clawed and reluctant, thawing the fields into sucking mud that claimed cleats whole, and our traditions kicked back tentative. The Special Olympics plunge was Diana's pre-US baby, a polar bear dip into Lake Michigan's icy shallows at North Avenue Beach, raising bucks for youth athletes linked to the hospital outreach. She'd roped Tom in from year one as co-captains, platonic plungers in wetsuits, all team huddles and donor cheers under the gray sky. I'd tagged along once, pre-wedding, yelling from the pebbled shore with a hot cocoa clutched in mittens, Scout barking frantic at the waves like he could dive too. "You lunatics are gonna freeze solid," I'd hollered as they bobbed up, gasping and linked arm grinning, medals dripping around their necks. "Join us next year, coach. Water's fine," Tom had yelled back, teeth chattering, Diana's laugh punching through the wind. Post-vows, it lingered like lake fog on the calendar. Her team retreats starting to stretch, weekend workshops that nibbled at our Sunday trail runs with Scout, his paws churning mud as we looped the paths. I'd notice her sketches shifting on the kitchen table, from our backyard fields, goalposts etched in warm ochres, to these swirling abstracts, blues bleeding into indigos, waves that pulled like undertows. One April evening, rain pattering the roof like impatient fingers, after a practice where the varsity botched every corner kick and left me hoarse, I surprised her in the studio, our converted garage, canvases leaning like dominoes. Tickets to an artist colony up north in my hand, envelope crisp. "Figured you could use a reset," I said, handing it over a half-eaten stir-fry on the workbench, Scout nosing at my calf for dropped broccoli. 2 nights, nothing but you, the easel, and 0 clipboards. We leave Friday. She stared at the envelope, fork hovering midair, steam rising lazy. Her hair was tied back with a paint rag, a smudge of sienna on her temple. "God, Ethan, that's incredible. Thoughtful as hell." But she set it down slow, deliberate, eyes flicking to her phone propped against a jar of brushes. "Workshops locked. Tom's got donors flying in from Milwaukee for the pitch. Big swings for the murals. Next month? I'll make it up. Double date with the colony vibes here." Her smile didn't quite crinkle the corners, and she busied herself with seconds, the wok hissing as she tossed in more peppers. I nodded, swallowing the knot rising like bile. "Yeah, next month works. Just don't bench the US too long." We ate in relative quiet after that, the rain drumming harder, Scout's tail thumping hopeful against the leg. Later, alone at the den with my journal, old coaching habit, leather-bound and dog-eared, I scribbled quick. "Chill creeping in the lineup, but it's a cold streak. Nothing more. Trust the long game. We've got 90 minutes plus stoppage." Nora Klein popped up casual around then, like a sub warming the bench. We crossed paths at a volunteer fair in early May. Booths crammed under white tents at the park, the air buzzing with cotton candy and Sharpie-scented posters. Nora was the high school librarian, all sharp bob haircut and wire-rimmed glasses that magnified her dry wit, sketching donor thank you cards beside Diana's face paint station. Their laughs carried over the crowd, easy and layered, like old teammates trading inside barbs over post-game brews. "Ethan, come meet Nora," Diana called, waving me over mid-doodle on a kid's cheek, turning tears into tiger stripes. "She's got this killer stash of graphic novels in the library. Says soccer's basically a comic strip exploded into real time. all panels and plot twists. Nora extended a hand from her folding chair, grip steady, ink stains on her fingers. Guilty as charged, but only if the coach narrates the blow-by-blows. And in panel 3, the fullback fakes left. Disaster. Her voice had this lilt, Midwestern flat but edged with sarcasm, and we fell into easy chat through the afternoon. Her recommending Persepolis for team-building reads, me countering with tales of a JV prank war that nearly got us all suspended. Diana orbited, her booth a whirlwind, but Nora's presence stuck, a sidebar note in the margin. By summer's humid stranglehold, July bleeding into August with temps that turned practices into saunas, the absences stacked like cautionary yellow cards in my back pocket. One sticky Friday night, grill smoke curling lazy from the deck, I fired up the burgers for our flick and feast routine, some old rom-com she'd picked last week, When Harry Met Sally, because Meg Ryan's chaos is my spirit animal. Scout sprawled on the boards, chasing fireflies in half-hearted snaps, his jowls slack in the heat. Babe, grillin' solo, burgers at 7, movie queued. You close? I texted from the patio, flipping patties with a spatula, the sizzle drowning the crickets. Her reply lit up delayed. Early commitment snagged me, running late in the workshop wrap. Save me one medium, extra cheese? So, your detour queen. I ate alone as dusk deepened, the movie's laugh track tinny from the laptop, empty Adirondack chair mocking with its slant. Halfway through the deli scene, I paused it, thumbing a community flyer on my phone for the next plunge. Annual Leap for Youth Athletes, North Avenue Beach, Nov 10th. Dive in for the win. Curiosity tugged like a loose thread. Why not spectate? Crash her world for once. Surprise her with a thermos of that spiked cider. Felt like reclaiming a corner of the field. I bookmarked it, the decision settling solid as a game plan, and whistled Scout inside, his nails clicking grateful on the deck. The morning of the plunge, November 10th, a Thursday that dawned sharp and unyielding, frost rhyming the truck's windshield like brittle lace, hit after a brutal all-nighter. I'd pulled the roster apart for the holiday tournament, varsity's midfield a sieve that needed plugging, sleep sacrificed to highlighters and coffee dregs. Diana had bolted pre-dawn, her side of the bed a cool echo when I stirred at 5. Packed morning ahead, she'd mumbled the night before over cold pizza remnants, kissing my forehead quick. Big leap tomorrow. Love you. Don't wait up with the light on. No wallowing in the gray. I brewed a pot strong as tar, packed 2 thermoses, black coffee with a bourbon splash for the bone chill, tugged on my wool team beanie, and whistled for Scout. Wanna crash the party, Mutt? See what the fuss is about? He bounded into the cab, tail thumping the bench seat like a drum roll, tongue lolling in the heater's blast. The drive north along Lakeshore was a monochrome smear, gray water churning under scudding clouds, wind-whipped dunes blurring past, radio crackling pre-event hype from a local station. Tune in for the plunge. 200 divers, thousands raised for our youth champs. By the time I nosed into a side lot off the beach, the frenzy was dialed to 11. Pop-up tents flapping like sails. 200 supporters bundled in parkas and scarves milling with cocoa carts, steaming sweet, amps blasting anthems that slice the gale. Eye of the Tiger on loop, ironic and fitting. Families clustered, kids in team jackets waving poster board signs. Dive for dreams, go Special Olympics. And the athletes themselves, a rainbow of adaptive stars, grinning from the sidelines with that raw, unfiltered joy that hits like a gut punch. The air hummed electric, brine sharp, The water a slate-gray shock lapping at the pebble shore. Orange buoys bobbing hesitant in the chop. I melted into the back of the crowd, thermos tucked under my arm like contraband, nodding at strangers. A mom with a toddler on her hip, a cluster of booster dads in Bears caps, as if I were just another backer. The wind clawed at my collar, turning cheeks numb, but the vibe pulled you in. Whoops from the warm-up tents where teams stripped to suits, shivers and adrenaline crackling like static. MC Mike, baritone from WGN Mornings, voice like gravel wrapped in velvet, grabbed the mic on the raised platform, building the roar slow. Chicago, we're freezing our tails off for the real MVPs, the youth athletes who leap every damn day. We've got plungers from every corner, but first, top team spotlight, coming in scorching at 12 grand raised. Our 3-year fundraising dynamos, co-captains Diana Hayes and Tom Riley. That power pair spark that's lit up this event like a bonfire. My stomach plummeted, a fumbled clearance kick in slow motion, the thermos denting inward under my white-knuckled grip as the crowd thundered applause. Power pair? The word echoed wrong, discordant, while the tent flap rustled open like a curtain call. There they surged. Diana and Tom, shoulder to shoulder in matched navy wetsuits, athlete icons embroidered on the sleeves in gold thread like some secret society's uniform. Fists bumped crisp, grins locked in perfect sync, her hair slicked back wet from a practice dip, strands escaping to frame her face, his arms slung casual around her shoulders as they pumped fists to the donors clustered front row. The MC leaned into it, mic feedback whining brief. 3 years of these two diving deep for our youth heroes. Give it up for Diana and Tom, the heart pumpers, the unbeatable duo keeping the fire roaring. The assumption hung thick as the mist rolling off the lake. They were the show, the spark, the pair everyone bet on. My breath came measured, iron in the lungs, world narrowing to the ice-cut water's edge where they led the team charge. A line of 30 shivering souls in suits, battle cries ripping through the wind. For the kids, dive in! Splashes erupted thunderous, bodies hitting the shock like stones in glass, and they plunged tandem, Diana's form slicing clean, Tom's right beside, surfacing entangled in gasps and high fives, her hand on his arm steadying as they treaded. Phones flashed frantic from the shore, donors capturing the huddle, her head tipping to his shoulder in the waves for a beat, their laughter punching above the roar, synced like they'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Shoreside scramble followed in a blur of adrenaline. Team piling out, the group towel wrap a standard norm, arms linked loose, backs slapped in congrats. But theirs lingered, a nuzzle close for the selfies that had donors cooing audible. Oh, goals! Look at that chemistry! Medals draped co-joint around their necks, heavy and dripping, banter flowing easy over the chill. Couldn't do it without my better half in the deep end, Tom quipped, voice carrying on the amp feedback, slinging the towel her way. Diana swatted his chest light, eyes sparkling under dripping lashes. Flatterer. But yeah, team makes the magic. 3-peat wouldn't be without the dive partner who doesn't bail. The 200 voices echoed it back, a wave of cheers and whistles assuming the inseparable, the duo, the electric, the heart of the hall. I stood rooted, cold seeping through my boots to the marrow, breath fogging deliberate against the hammer pulse in my temples. No fracture in the moment, no shatter, just halftime recalibration, eyes hawk-sharp. Jaw locked tight, I drifted peripheral to the exit corral amid the post-leap milling. Stragglers trading cocoa, athletes high-fiving donors. Thermos still clutched like a lifeline. Overheard the organizer, a wiry woman in a parka, gushing to a knot of stragglers. Diana and Tom's spark? Pure gold. Legends who've banked 30 grand cumulative on that unbeatable vibe alone. Next year's theirs again. Palmed the event photogs card in the scrum. Hey, love the team energy up there. When do pro shots drop? Voice steady as a feint, and duck to the truck for a shadowed clip. Scout whining from the cab as the crowd's roar veiled my mutter. Logged. All of it. Engine turned over rough, heater blasting futile against the wet chill clinging like accusation. And I wheeled south, home by early afternoon, the house looming quiet under low skies. The kitchen echoed hollow, her non-profit laptop forgotten on the charger by the sink. Screensaver flickering lake waves, unlocked via our home Wi-Fi autopass. Fingers steady as lining up a penalty, I cracked the Google Drive, folders spilling like evidence in a locker room bust. 3-year plunge archive. Synced gear snaps from pre-event fittings. Her lace in his wetsuit zipper. Laughs frozen mid-frame. Huddle embraces post-dip, arms wrapped tight in victory. Donor selfies tagged Our Spark, with timestamps predating our vows. The event site loaded next, profile pic glowing. Them mid-plunge, heads thrown back, 30 grand tallied bold as Team Diana and Tom. Power pair for the plunge. Donor feed scrolled endless, 150 plus comments stacking. That dynamic duo inspires every time. More dives, you two. Pair goals AF, raised my pledge just watching the chemistry. Archives oozed deeper, local news clips embedded. Plunge power, pair nets. Record haul. Logs framing their joint appeal traditions. Emails CC'd with flirty emojis. Planning sessions that blurred lines into something intimate. Evening uncoiled with purpose. The sun dipping bloody behind the suburbs. Organizer's text pinged innocuous. His mingle bluff holding from earlier. Hey, rooting hard for Diana and Tom's spark today? True legends. Event crushed thanks to them. Thumbs flew, measured. Husband here, Ethan Brooks. Legends? Try misdirection on the timeline. Sparks got shadows. Attached a ring finger selfie, time-stamped our wedding band glinting, then queried the board chair in a separate thread. Measured, professional, CC'd to the public donor roster I'd scraped from the site. Noted timeline gaps in the power pair pitch materials. Attached discrepancies for your review. Clarity serves the kids best. Happy to discuss. No blast furnace, just a lobbed grenade with a steady fuse. By Twilight's bruise, I'd looped in Mark Hale, my old coach from college, now a family law shark in a corner office downtown. Grizzled ex-linebacker with a voice like chewed gravel and a win rate that scared judges. Irreconcilables, no-fault filing, he confirmed over speakerphone, pen scratching audible as he jotted. Short marriage helps. Under 7 years, equity splits clean. And that 8 grand in joint funds? Statements label it team graphics for the events. Classic dissipation under Illinois Code 750 ILCS 5503. We claim it, claw it back. Solid ground, Ethan, no mud. We filed the petition e-sub that night, formal process server queued via county sheriff per 735 ILCS 52203. Discreet, efficient, the kind that lands like a yellow card, not red. I paced the den, floorboards groaning under sock feet, Scout nosing my hand for reassurance as the clock ground past 9, bourbon warming my palm undrunk. The server hit Tom's address, a squat walk-up off the lakefront, bricks weathered by gales, mid-decompress, around 10 sharp. Diana's choke sliced the air over the relayed call from Mark's assistant, her voice fracturing in the background. What? Ethan, wait, that's not... Papers thrust under the door with a thud, her protests muffled. I nodded to the empty room, voice low into the receiver. Teams disbanded. Solo swims from here on out. The first week post-plunge unspooled like a social squall. Spring's half-hearted thaw. Daffodils poking defiant through mud, mocking the ice in my veins that wouldn't melt. Clips from the event percolated viral through local feeds by Monday. Me seeding the timeline diffs subtle to the PTA Slack and coach group chat. Neutral nudge in the subject. Quick note on plunge power pair prop. Funneled $30K for youth athletes. Worth the straight story on fund flow for transparency. No rage bait, just facts dropped like corner flags. Donors cascaded reflexive. 20 refunds wired back in the first 48 hours. Moms from the booster club, dads with tax season regrets. Snowballing to 60 by Friday's close. Clawing 18 grand max from the pot. Feeds soured organic. Huddle hype hid the half-truth on those pair pitches. One PTA thread starter posted, her comment gaining 50 likes and a dozen quote tweets by lunch. Ryan stepped up from Ribber to Rally Point that Tuesday after school, hosting an off-the-books backing drill at the pitch. Portable grill smoking brats on the sideline, parents in folding chairs turning tactic talk into a war council. We keep it light. No fouls called, he said, flipping a burger my way with tongs. Voice pitched low over the sizzle and kids' distant shouts. Spotlight the real game. Lift the kids without the drama. You're the ref here, Ethan. Whistle stays fair. A booster dad, Mike from the hardware store crew, clapped my shoulder mid-bite. Damn right. Saw the plunge feed. Thought it was cute couple stuff, but now? Youth deserve the clean shot, not smoke and mirrors. What's next play? Patience, I said, mustard dripping on my knee. Boards reviewing, donors talking. We huddle honest, win the long half. The air thickened with nods. Beers cracked casual. Scout weaving through legs for scraps. His tail a low anchor in the swirl. Twist landed Thursday afternoon. A DM pinging unexpected in my inbox. Lena Ortiz, gruff donor with silver-streaked hair, pulled tight, and a grudge carved deep from board wars past. Tom's ex-mentor, whispers from the auction days, pegged her as the one who'd ousted him over a prior boardroom entanglement that left bad blood thicker than lake fog. Caught your timeline post. Smart seed. Here's fuel. Ledger drop on $25K in unreported loans from donor checks, funneled through Diana's private art sales at the events. Attachments scanned clean. Use it to scrub your side, Brooks. Kids first. Files thumped in. Invoices forged loose. Bank pings linking fresh donor dollars to her personal Venmo for mural commissions, disguised slick but sloppy on the dates. Heart kicked once, hard, but I forwarded the packet to Mark that night over takeout lo mein in the den. Phone warm in my palm. Scout's head heavy on my thigh. Fresh ammo, I said when he picked up. Chopsticks paused. Civil angle. Dissipation piles higher. Beautiful, Mark grunted, audible swallow. We'll weave it in mediation. Keep the PI on Tom. Shadows pay off. You holding shape out there? Shape's tight, I lied light, scratching Scout's ears. Field's clear. Weeks 2 through 4 blurred into a financial flay. The house cavernous, with her duffel still half unzipped in the hall closet. Zipper teeth glinting accusatory in the hall light. Day 2 post-filing, I tapped Vic Russo for the shadow work. Ex-cop PI built like a blocking sled. Broad as a fridge with a buzz cut going gray. Who'd scouted raw talent for my college program back in the day. Met him over eggs at the corner diner. Vinyl booths cracking under our weight. The air greasy with hash browns. Off-grid haunts on the guy, I told him, voice low over the clink of forks, yolk dripping from his bite. Receipts for those 8K perks transfers. Link them to unshipped graphics files. No heroics, just the trail. Vic nodded slow, wiping his plate with toast. Unlike Donkey Kong, coach. You hold the line. No blind rushes into the box. I'll bag the goods by week's end. True to word, he delivered fast. Tom ducking into smoke-hazed card dens off Halstead Avenue. Low-stakes poker with railbirds. Receipts snapped crisp linking padded transfers to ghost-design PDFs that never shipped. Sloppy, Vic's report read, emailed with timestamps. Guys chasing debts with donor scraps. Your 8K's just the tip. Folded seamless into the counter-sue for mediation. Civil waste claim. No criminal swing yet to avoid the circus. And Diana's alimony bid cratered hard on her steady art union salary, plus our short run. Judge denying per 750 ILCS 5504 equitable distribution in the prelim hearing. Accounts frozen by Wednesday's noon docket. Her credit card pings bouncing like bad passes. I lowballed the house buyout on equity calcs, staging the listing photos myself that weekend. Kitchen hearth snapped warm with fresh towels, but sparse, no personal ghosts. Clear field, fresh start. The Zillow caption read, subtle, pulling inquiries by Sunday. She gate-crashed mid-week 3, storming the sidelines during varsity drills, yoga pants and oversized hoodie, hair wild from the wind, voice cracking sharp over the whistle blasts and thud of balls on turf. Ethan, stop! This adrenaline rush crap, it's not the full score. We were hyping the cause, donors ate it up, nothing more. Kids froze mid-drill, balls rolling forgotten to the goal line, eyes wide as she planted hands on hips 10 yards out. I blew the whistle, long, shrill, signaling our volunteer security. Big Ron from the Booster Dads, built like a retired lineman with a gentle grip. Diana, field's active. Own your pitch next time. Unteamed means no crossovers. She faltered, eyes searching mine desperate, lips parting on a plea. Please, just talk off the clock? For the harvest vows? Ron steered her back gentle but firm, her protests fading into the gusts. Ethan, wait, we can fix the play. The squad milled awkward, whispering, and I clapped sharp. Back to stations. Corners on 3. Focus wins halves. Scout trotted over from his bench perch, dropping a slobbery tennis ball at my boots, tail wagging slow, sensing the static. I ruffled his ears rough, tossing it long down the touchline. Good boy. Fetch keeps the momentum, always. By week 5, the psychological pummel dug in proper, summer's humid simmer, turning practices into steam baths, the air thick with cut grass and unspoken fallout. Lena looped deeper into the ops that Monday, her anonymous tip to the Illinois AG's Consumer Fraud Division on the skim landing with a thud. Announced in a terse midweek presser from Springfield. Nonprofit fundraiser facade under state review. $30K in event traditions flagged for discrepancies. The clip hit local news by evening. Anchor's voice smooth. Questions swirl around the Plunge's star team. Donors seek answers on the power pair pitch. Tom's gigs evaporated overnight. Canceled mural consults, outreach invites ghosted. Diana's whisper network wilted fast. 10 bookings vanishing by Friday, 15 by the next Monday, word of mouth turning to ice. Lost the library collab, she texted me once, unblocked for logistics only. Kids love the sketches. Guess the chill spread. I left it unread, stacking mail on the counter. Therapy slotted week 4, courtesy of the district's employee assistants. Dr. Ellis, A no-nonsense vet with a sailor's squint and salt and pepper bun, office smelling of chamomile and old books. Hawk modes your armor short-term, she said, in our first hour, notepad balanced on her knee, clock ticking soft behind her. Adaptive for the shatter, but unpack the early cues. That Act 1 chill in the huddles. Signals, not static. Was the default trust your strength, or the blindside tackle? I shifted on the leather, locket chain tugging under my collar. Strength. Always was. Pass comes. You take it clean. She nodded. No judgment, just the probe. The journal filled sporadic after. Quick scrawls on the whiskey nights alone, like unearthing her old sketchbook in the attic, crawl space one muggy Tuesday. Flip through to a spread, 100 words worth of flashback tenderness, pencil strokes capturing our leaf-vow laughs under the orchard arches, my grin mid-oath, her note scribbled marginal. His eyes. Home field advantage. Nearly thawed the edge. I set it back gentle, cork popping on the bottle. Then a donor email reignited Tuesday Eve. Saw the probe. Youth care cashed on the couple charade. Pulled my pledge. Kids need truth over tricks. Green lit the hospital mixer clarity drop that weekend. Me on stage with a 10 grand solo pledge check in my name. Handed over to the director amid polite applause. Fair teams fund fair plays, I quipped light into the mic. Crowd of 50 murmuring approval. No shortcuts, just the straight surge. Diana's name hung unmentioned, but the room felt it, the pivot sharp. Fraud gears ground next. Vic's update flagged her padded nonprofit invoices for phantom graphics. 8K overbilled direct to donors. Line items for custom athlete icons that never printed. Misdemeanor restitution territory, he grunted over coffee debrief, folder slapped on the table. No bars, but the stings in the payback. Civil clawback easy. Tom ghosted the first mediation session, holed up debt dodging in a no-tell motel off I-90. His follow-up frivolous suit, harassment claim on my donor query chain, tossed in a 30-minute hearing, judge's gavel cracking like a referee's card. Frivolous on its face, counsel, rein it in. Fall frosted months 3 and 4, leaves turning brittle underfoot, counterattacks chasing like loose balls in extra time. Diana lawyered fierce by Labor Day, her attorney, a slick associate from a loop firm, filing harassment motions flagging my query chain to donors as intentional infliction via Slack and email harassment. Stalking the narrative, the filing read, attached screenshots of my neutral posts cropped dramatic. Vic parried swift with her text trail to Tom, subpoenaed and time-stamped. Miss our dives. That sparks what keeps me going. When next? Mediation devolved maelstrom that first session. Virtual, screens freezing on tense faces. Sheriff served RO, flipping her pattern clean per IL cyberstalking statutes. 720 ILCS 51275. Her late-night pings to my cell, blocked but logged. Veiled jabs on neighborhood Facebook boards. Some exes played dirty. Watch the rebounds. Tom's probe dragged leaden, him flaking 2 talks with excuses emailed lame. Flu. Reschedule? Plot blasted mid-October, a Friday night after a rain-soaked practice. Nora, Ryan's casual setup over coffee post-volunteer fare, her dry wit pulling me into graphic novel recs, shared a Sunset Beach stroll snap on her Insta story. Arm looped loose in mine. Caption, wind down with good company. Waves and words. Innocent as a cool-down lap, but Diana's rage doxed veiled by dawn. Anonymous community post, rebound thief snagging the scraps off a broken field. Watch the fakes. I petitioned the RO extension that Monday, attaching the thread plus Vic's hack trail from her nonprofit login pings. IP traces tying to her home modem, and it locked airtight. Judge's order emailed by lunch. No contact, direct or inferred. Neutral coffee hash via lawyers landed that gray October afternoon. Rain sheeting the cafe windows like tears on glass, the booth smelling of burnt espresso and wet wool. Diana slid in opposite, eyes hollowed under concealer, her attorney hovering booth-adjacent like a guard dog. Mid-barter on the cabin equity split. Me lowballing to cover the graphics dissipation. She blurted sudden, voice cracking on the steam. Remember our winter retreat up north? The snow fights in the pines. You holding me through that blizzard, whispering we'd weather anything? I set my mug down measured, pulling the shared calendar app on my phone. Logs synced from our last December tangle. Timestamps glaring, unforgiving. Math doesn't arc, Diana. That weekend? You were in Chicago. Plunge prep huddle with Tom. Hotel receipt in the drive. I shoveled the drive alone. She splintered visible then, shoulders caving inward, fingers twisting a napkin to shreds. His debt. It ramped everything, the joint pitches to cover. Guilt snowballed. But I led the leap. Admitted. The adrenaline hooked me first. The rush of us three, it blurred. Month 5 peeled the coercion layer slow, her depot admission in early November. Pressure mountain post-duo start from Tom's IOUs, but her agency anchoring defiant. Adrenaline hooked the line, she said under oath, voice edged but steady, her lawyer objecting futile. I chose the sinker, chased the high. Spice surged ugly when Lena's board fling reveal dropped late month. Depot testimony from a quit board member outing Tom's old flame overlap with her. Staggered resignations rippling like dominoes over 3 weeks. Audits pivoted hard. Hospitals' major donor streams rerouted to my nascent True Play Fund by Thanksgiving. Checks clearing with handwritten notes. For the game changers who play straight. No pairs needed. Red herring closed vicious. Forged donor check surfaced via Lena's forensic log mid-month. A $5,000 bounce with Tom's scrawl forged sloppy on the payee. Table it mediation only, I told Mark over turkey leftovers, voice flat. Let it burn quiet in the books, no public pyre. Therapy motifs burrowed deeper in sessions with Dr. Ellis, probing the Hawks' pivot. Reclaiming's the reset button, she said one drizzly Tuesday, rain lashing the window. Release the grip, field's yours post-whistle. Journal clipped short that night. Coercion threads, or choice knots. Expose the tangle, own none. Momentum's the medic. Month 6. Vortexed isolation tight. Winter creeping early with lake-effect squalls dusting the eaves white by mid-December. Diana's orbit contracted a pinhole. Her sister Sophia, looped in via my donor diffs packet, emailed gentle over brunch intel, severed hard after dissecting the padded logs. She played the whole board. Sophia's text hit Christmas Eve. Voice note attached raw. Sobs choking words. Tell her from me. The family's iced. Can't thaw this. Diana picketed the school fringe one sleety January afternoon, placard scrawled in Sharpie fury. Melt the freeze. One talk, Ethan? For the vows. Stationed at the lot's edge, drawing sympathetic murmurs from idling parents but swift escort from the principal's office, her pleas trailing wind-whipped. Just 5 minutes? We built this team. PTA pulse countered steady in the parent portal. Honesty in the huddles wins the season. One mom posted, thread ballooning to 200 comments by dinner, emojis of whistles and nets. Nora's thaw deepened to proper trail dates. Weekend loops at the preserves with Scout romping ahead, crashing through underbrush like a furry scout. her hand slipping into mine natural as a give-and-go pass. "You're not freezing the world out," she said one dusk in February, leaves long gone but mud sucking at our boots, her breath fogging close. "That's the win, letting light in the cracks." I squeezed back, the weight fractional lighter, her laugh cutting the chill when Scout splashed a puddle her way. "Traitor mutt, your dad's rubbing off." Peak month 7 crested spring surge, March's tentative greens pushing through, the revamped plunge hitting fever on the 10th. Me slotted as guest MC under the big top tent, voice booming steady over the amps to a crowd swelled to 250. "Chicago, we're here leaping for the champs. No props, all heart in the deep end. Who's ready to dive true?" Auction block hummed. The team towel relic, that old post-plunge wrap, anonymous drop from a donor purge, hammered down for $7,000 to a booster mom, cheers erupting as the gavel fell. Diana fringed the crowd feral, eyes wild from the roar's edge, lunging stageward mid-bid frenzy. "Stop the spin! He iced me into the dives. Debt pressure, the whole board knew." Spotlights pinned her stark, gasps rippling through the donors like a wave stall, phones tilting instinctive. But I held the mic unyielding, therapy-tempered calm threading the words. "You crack the ice first, Diana. Harvest the wake you made. Solo now." Cops cleared her, measured, wrist-cinched light in flex cuffs, murmurs trailing as security steered her back to the fringe, her stumbles drawing pity but no purchase. The clip rocketed local feeds by midnight, etching the pariah permanent. Plunge chaos. Ex-captain's outburst. Steele's spotlight. Scout stole the afterglow pure, mini-plunge demo with the youth athlete's post-main event. Him belly-flopping shallow into the roped-off shallows, tail-spraying arcs of joy that soaked the kids' laughs, mirroring my straight surge to the podium for closing thanks. "For the real teams," I said, mic hot, "we dive unburdened." Probe clinched brutal by summer's full bloom, June sun baking the fields golden. Tom cuffed in a dawn raid clip that trended. Felony fraud on the skim, wrists zip-tied casual as he ducked into the cruiser. Reporters swarming his walk-up stoop. "Restitution and reckoning," the AG's statement read. $30K clawed systemic. Diana's misdemeanor netted quiet steel. Community service logged at a rival outreach downtown. 200 hours scrubbing baseboards, no cage, but the daily weight of averted eyes. Her court date a footnote in the trib. Settlement scarred final in July's haze. Full 8K disgorged wired to the fund. Her freelance gigs scattering thin to far-flung commissions. Packing boxes glimpsed from my truck one dawn. Her silhouette taping labels in the driveway light. My peak synced relentless. Squad storming to semis in state quals. Nora's not-talk whispers over porch wine that August eve. "Ready to diagram the next formation with me?" Her fingers tracing mine on the rail. Scouts field fetches free and fierce under stadium lights. Balls arcing true.